countryside of San Sepolcro in the province of Arezzo to meet with our client, Kirsty Payton, former owner of Il Pomodoro Farmhouse, a lovely property dating back to 1827 surrounded by nature close to Anghiari. Kirsty will tell us about the collaboration with the Great Estate Group and in particular her consultant, Alberto Zardo. We'll meet Kirsty shortly. And here we are with our client, Kirsty Payton. Kirsty, welcome. It's nice to see you today. Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and what you do for a living?
Originally, I'm from New Zealand, but I left there about 40 years ago. Don't like to say that, but that's true. Lived in England, lived in Scotland, lived in the States for a while, went back to England, and then we came here.
Would you say, so obviously we're here to talk about the farmhouse of Pomodoro that you recently sold. Can I ask what the history of the house is and of course some features about the property?
As far as we know, and Alberto will probably confirm this, but we think it was from about 1860, I want to say 63, 67, something like that.
Yes, I can confirm.
Yeah,
Okay.
Because there's a small outbuilding that you don't necessarily notice when you get there. It's under the trees at the gate, and that has a plaque on it with that date on it. So we assumed that it was built at the same time. So
Okay.
I have no idea who the original owners were or what they did with it. It was a farmhouse, but I know from people who have told me local sort of history that it could have been named because its name was Centena Alta.
Okay.
So Centena coming from the Italian word 100, and the Alta obviously being high, that it was a sentry post in the Longobards Wars.
Sure.
As the 100th because it was around Anghiari, so it was along the hills of Anghiari. So that's what I've been told. Whether that's true or not, I don't know.
Interesting. Can I ask why you decided to sell your farmhouse?
Well, yeah, it's just sort of as life moves on. Pete worked away a lot. My children, who had sort of grown up there, sorts of things. So, we just sort of started to consider other options. The house, I mean, it's not a huge house, but it certainly was quite a big house to have for one person. So ultimately, made the decision.
How long did you own the property for, can I ask?
20 years, more than 20
okay.
years. Yeah.
Was it hard to part with the...
That's a good question. Maybe, I don't know. I'm not terribly sentimental about things like that. So it was the right time. It was the right time, right decision. So, I mean, I miss certain things about it, but
Of course.
yeah. It's nice to pass it on. I have to be honest, it's nice to pass it on to people who are actually living there
Sure.
full time and who love it. They absolutely love it. So
Good. Sounds like now the property obviously being used to maximum potential.
yeah, no, definitely.
So basically, how did you find Great Estate? What impressed you most about working with Great Estate, and what made you decide to entrust us with this commission?
Well, as I don't know whether I ever explained to Alberto, who sits up very interestedly in the corner.
I'm really curious.
The property wasn't listed. I didn't even know about Great Estates. So sorry, but I'd never heard of them. And it had been listed with a local agent for some time who, let's just say, wasn't very proactive.
Okay.
I was in England and Pete went up to the house and was checking the mail, and he found a letter in there that Alberto had left. And that we were talking on the phone, and he said to me, there's this letter in the box from some guy who wants to know if we're interested in selling the house to him. And I must be honest, I did sort of think, that's a bit of a scam. But I called you.
Yeah.
And we had a chat on the phone. I thought, I might as well call him. So I called him, and he was actually, sounded quite sincere and serious. And so we kind of went from there. But he also sort of gave me the idea that that he was going to be much more sort of hands-on and proactive than perhaps I had been used to. But we didn't meet for a long time, did we? We just communicated by phone because it was during COVID.
During the pandemic.
Yeah, it was during COVID.
It's good that you could trust Alberto even from a distance.
Yeah, I think you sort of get a sense of people, and
Absolutely.
I definitely felt that, and also I think you met Franco and Dahlia as well, who
Yes.
and they're quite good judge of character, and they felt that he was okay. So and I think you brought several people to the house in those intervening sort of months.
I proposed privately to some clients before we start work more active together. But at the beginning, I think we start talking because you were not sure to can sell the house. So I made some search for that reason, and then we start to have a nice feeling together, and then we start working exclusively together.
Yeah.
So I can ask you, how was your overall experience with Alberto?
It was great. It was very positive. I had to rely on him a lot more than probably in a normal sale.
Sure.
Because there were so many different issues arising and so many different things that needed to be dealt with that I just didn't really understand. And I didn't understand the implications of a lot of them, where a lot for reasons of language, because it's so complicated. And when you get into all the nitty-gritty of all of those things, there's so many different levels to understand. And I had to make a decision that I would trust him to do that. So I was like, okay, I can do that. So I think at the point that we all realized that it was all going to be a whole lot more complicated, I think he took on board maybe way more responsibility and work than he had anticipated and probably had in other sales.
So sweet.
Well, so go ahead, if you can, Alberto, if you can tell us about the negotiations and the process.
But the negotiation itself, it was not complicated, because the buyer fell in love immediately with the house, because Centena Alta was a really well done property, and they keep so well, so they fell in love immediately. The complication arrived with time, because we discovered that there are some technical problems that neither Kirsty knew, and so we worked together to solve all the problems step by step. But we had a trust relation, and so it was not so complicated. It was just a little bit longer than we thought at the beginning.
Okay. Well, in conclusion, in light of your experience with Great Estate, would you say that you recommend our company to friends or even to other clients looking to purchase or sell a property in Italy?
I have already, actually. I've given Alberto's name to 3 different people already, all of whom had not similar issues to me, but were very undecided about who they wanted to sell their house through because of what the general impression of estate agents is. So I think it's much easier to be able to say to somebody, look, I had a really good experience. It wasn't a great experience, but I had a good experience with this estate agent, and I would trust him to get you through it.
Absolutely.
I would trust him to get you through the sale of your house. So I think when you can personally recommend somebody, people are quite happy to take that recommendation.
I think so.
Particularly with the issues that we had to deal with, and he'll tell you there were moments when I was very stressed about the entire process because it was very difficult at some points. But he just was. I'd call and I'd be like, I can't do this anymore. Not sort of like, oh my God, I honestly was just sort of overwhelmed by it at times. And he was always like, well, it's okay. We just have to do this and we just have to do that. And
another hoop to go through.
it literally was just, and I think because he was always calm about it, and I also trusted that he understood the processes that I did not understand. So
which is probably why he was calm.
He knew enough to know that, okay, we had to do this, but, and it was always the but, we're going to get there.
Okay.
And that was like, okay, all right.
Just having,
having that support and having
Exactly.
someone who was just calm and just not a confidence and an overconfidence, like, oh, don't worry about it, it'll be fine, but just calm and it's okay. Just we just
Someone
need
that
to
knows
work through the process
The sense was we started together, and don't worry, we will arrive up to the end together. So,
but he did say, I will tell you this, he did say at the end when we were finally at the notaio, he said, I think this is the longest house sale I've ever had. I definitely recommend him. 5 stars from me.
thank you.
Very happy to hear. That makes us very happy to hear. So very glad you had a good experience. Thank you for sharing with everyone and with us your testimony today. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you also to Alberto for your participation, and we'll see everyone at the next Great Estate interview.